Hello and thanks for tuning in. I am that nerd dad, Joe Williamson. It is the Just Joe Monday show, where I get to talk pop culture, parenting, and politics, and anything else that comes to mind. Before we get into it, want to ask that wherever you're watching this or listening to this, there's probably a subscribe or follow button. Please hit that. I greatly appreciate it. There's probably a thumbs up or 5-star rating system, something to that effect. Also, very much appreciated. I think that's it. I think that's all the homework. Got a fun one. Outside of the obvious World War III that is probably going to happen, got some fun stuff to talk about. So, let's not delay. Let's get right into it.
Are you listening? Damn.
Okay, so, we'll ease into it. I replaced a kitchen faucet last week. This is only noteworthy because, one, I'm proud of myself. I did it. You can do it too, because if I can do it, you can do it. Relatively simple job. Took me about 3 hours total, but 2.5 hours of that was disconnecting the old faucet. Holy crap! Whoever installed this thing did not want it to be uninstalled by an amateur in the future, because it took me like 2.5 hours to uninstall it, and then 30 minutes to hook up the new one, and the new one works perfect. So, if I can do it, you can do it. This is only noteworthy for two reasons. One, I don't know how plumbers do it all day long. And this might sound oddly sexual, so bear with me. But they're on their back a lot. I was on my back in kind of awkward positions, and I was reaching into hard to see areas, and I was struggling to get the job done. Do you see what I did there? Also, I scratched the shit out of my back because I kept rubbing it on the edges of under the sink, and then more than once I banged the top of my head as I was getting out from under the sink, and actually cut my head pretty pretty good. Gave it a pretty good scratch, to the point where my 6-year-old said to me, "What happened to the top of your head? It looks like it's bleeding." And it was bleeding. So, wear a hard hat, but my fictitious hat is off. Tip of the hat to plumbers all over the world. Thank you for everything you do. All right, we're going to talk about the war. Okay, so I'm not the place to get your news. I'm just going to give you my take on it and what I know about it and my understanding of it. But don't come to me for hard-hitting news. The occasional pop culture reference, fine, but news? Go to like CNN, BBC. I like the BBC. Find the BBC to be very even-keeled in their reporting. But last week, after months, years of speculation, Russia finally took steps to actually formally invade Ukraine. And, I think it's one of those situations where there was a lot of talk about it. Like I said, probably months or years of kind of speculation that this might happen one day. And then Putin just kind of said, okay, today's the day. And away he went. What has been refreshing is the pushback from the Ukrainian people. And I've got the image of Zelensky up right now with this quote that will live forever. When he was asked to leave, he said, "The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride." When the statue of him is built, that will be the engraving. It's hell. I have a couple of additional thoughts. One is there's a lot on social media about this. There are TikToks being filmed from the war zones. There's a lot of imagery, because Zelensky used to be a soldier, of him in battle fatigues. Be careful of what you're consuming and its accuracy. Double check. Make sure it's a reputable source. Make sure the reputable source hasn't issued a retraction. Because what we're seeing is there's been so much coming from all angles that even the reputable sources are getting it wrong right now. And they're issuing retractions, or they're no longer airing certain footage, or they're taking longer to vet what is real and what is not. There was one thing that was going around that ended up being a modified clip of a video game. And that got headlines. That was making the rounds. So that's my first thought on this whole thing. My first thought is, please do your research. And be careful. It's going to be easy to get caught up in some sort of thing that's been retweeted by a celebrity. Vet to the best of your ability. The second thing I wanted to talk about is, I think the meddling in the elections, both the Canadian and the U.S., and really all this international interference we hear about during election time, and the hacking and they've been meddling in our elections. I'm not sure what people really understood what that meant. I think it's starting to hit home now. The meddling in the elections isn't necessarily just to disrupt our election, but to disrupt our democracy and sow doubt. So that when someone like Putin decides to make a move of this grand scale, there is divisiveness within our own countries. It's not hard to see Republicans supporting Putin, or maybe hedging their bet a little bit in the language they use and not outright decrying the invasion. Same thing here in Canada. You can find supporters of Putin. And it makes his job, makes his job easier to invade. Makes his job easier to go forth and march forward. Thankfully, the world has, again, even for all of his efforts on dividing the countries up and attacking democracy, the countries have come forward and stayed together. And I believe he thought it was going to be a cakewalk, and I don't think it's going to be. I don't think Ukraine will fall. Again, what the hell do I know? But this could go on for a very long time. He vaguely threatened nuclear action. Look, if somebody is prepared to use nuclear weapons, there's no guarantee you're going to hear this. So let's just hope it doesn't come to anything like that. But and one last thought that I've been kind of running through my mind as I work through this myself is China is watching this closely. They want to see what type of pushback the world gives when it comes to taking over another nation, because they have been sitting there waiting to take on Taiwan. And I'm sure they are waiting to see how this plays out. You hope they don't make a move at the same time, so the world has to choose, or that we have to spread our resources too thin. But maybe they were waiting to see what type of pushback came. And if we let Putin just take it, maybe they thought, well, we can take Taiwan too. Hopefully the precedent of the pushback has been sufficient enough to keep China at bay. And when this scare is over, and when this war is over, I think the world needs to do a little level setting of expectations. And there's going to be some change in leadership, and it's going to be a long haul. This is just the beginning. We have gone from Trump to COVID. COVID's not over yet, but we went from Trump to COVID to fucking Putin trying to take over Ukraine. So, that's my thought on that. I don't pray, but if you are a prayer, now's a good time. Okay, I'm going to pivot now. I'm going to pivot to the usual goofiness. And I promise it'll be lighthearted from here on out. But I can't not talk about it. At least once. I talked about it. Gave you my feelings. Fake butt. That's the headline. Tom Holland let it slip that one of the Spidermans, one of them, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire, has a fake butt in his costume. He didn't say which one. But now, my Google history is altered by typing in Andrew Garfield's ass, Tobey Maguire's ass, and doing really tight comparisons. Who do you think has the fake ass? You tell me. This is an update. About 2 weeks ago, I mentioned that those Netflix Marvel series were leaving, and we weren't really sure where they were going to end up. Well, we know now. They have decided to move over to Disney Plus. Disney Plus is going to launch them on March 16th. So, if you still have, I think today's the last day. You have one more day to watch them on Netflix. Then you have to wait 2 weeks to maybe watch them on Disney Plus. Still haven't watched any of them. I'm still really into the Arrowverse. Almost getting done though. Almost caught up. Deadpool 3 news. Sort of. Ryan Reynolds has teased that news is coming sooner rather than later. And he can't wait to share it. I promise I'll talk about it. Deadpool movies are phenomenal. Love Ryan Reynolds. I still remember the first one really vividly, and I've kind of forgotten the second one. I think the first one had real cultural impact on me. The second one with cable, less so. So, stay tuned for news. This is literally a tease about a potential tease. The future is weird. This next one will be quick, I promise. Indiana Jones 5 has finished filming, and I don't care. No interest in this at all. They lost me on the Crystal Skulls. And finally, the Oscar hosts. Do you know the Oscars are coming? Oscars are coming March 27th. And there's going to be a threesome hosting. There's going to be Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer, and Regina Hall. Oh man, I'm butchering that. I apologize to Miss Hall. I will say this. 3 fine individuals. No problem with any of them. However, there are 2 of them that I'd prefer not to be on that stage. And they're Miss Hall, because I don't want to butcher her first name, and Schumer. Just make this a Wanda Sykes show. Wanda Sykes has been one of the, if not the funniest woman doing stand-up in America, in the world, for the last 20 years. I love Wanda Sykes. Legitimately, her stand-up and her delivery and her ability to steal scenes in TV shows and movies is second to none. And I would love to see her on stage roasting, a la Ricky Gervais, for 3 hours. I would love it. I'm really not sure what Amy Schumer is doing there. Amy Schumer doesn't quite have the pedigree She's not quite, I was going to say hot enough, but hot enough not in terms of looks, but in terms of like 5 years ago it would have made more sense to have Amy Schumer. She was kind of everywhere 5 years ago. Amy Schumer hasn't been in the news much recently. So I would much prefer a Wanda Sykes solo routine. So I hope that she takes the lead and she kind of anchors it, and maybe the other two just kind of come in for various bits, but this doesn't move the needle for me. It would have, though, if it was Wanda Sykes as hosting the Oscars. I would legitimately have watched it just to see her. But it's not the case. So they don't get my eyeballs. I'm sure they'll be crushed. Oscars again airing on March 27th. That's it. That's the show. A little more heavy than I wanted it to be, but I couldn't. I legitimately kept, do I talk about the war? Do I not talk about the war? I gotta talk about the war. And we'll probably have to talk about it again, depending on how the whole thing progresses. What's coming up? This is usually where I also tease what's coming up. So what's coming up is Julie Burton interview. It's coming out on Wednesday, or the next episode, whenever you're watching this. Last week's episode, was it Steve Patterson? I don't even remember who Amber Mack. Amber Mack was last week. Man, that was so good. I almost forgot. She is just a delight. And then I am interviewing Zach from Australia. We're going to talk the influence that Australians have on kids shows right now. There's Micmacs, there's Wiggles, there's Bluey, which everyone knows and loves, and we're going to just talk about that. So I'm staying up late, very late, to do an interview with him, because he's 15 hours ahead of me. That has been a nightmare to try and schedule. So stay tuned for all that. Want to thank DeanBlundell.com, DeanBlundell.com, home of Canada's #1 podcast network, and his very own podcast as well. I say it like I'm doing him a favor. His show is one of the biggest in Canada. It's Monday to Friday, 3-ish. I've also started writing a lot more for him as well. I think I put up 3 articles last week on DeanBlundell.com. Pop culture, frivolous, funny stuff. Little tidbits. Stuff I don't want to talk about on the show. He gets my B-roll stuff. But head over to there too if you want to read what I say as well. Man, if you can't get enough of me, I'm available. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Please continue to tell a friend, tell an enemy, and be well, be safe. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for listening.
Damn.